Is they 1,580 Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. We're continuing the Arukh HaShulchan on Hilchos Chodesh. They're doing your idea, Simon Reis, Sar Gimel, Sif Yud Gimel to Chaf. Yud Gimel. No, the field feed the very bill saying Ubali Tesis. Mikon Kon near Zeh Rak Mi Rabbanon, V'lo Min HaTorah. The Isra on Chodesh Shel Akum is the Rabbanon, not the Raisa. Much closer, that's Moshe, like they themselves, right? The other part of Mailo Tani Chal Shnei B'Chutzarts. Why is not mentioned Chal, which is applicable in Chutzarts? So Vadi Rak Rabbanon. So you only mean Rabbanon. They draw a parallel between Chal and Chodesh Shel Akum. Seeing that it's both Rabbanon. Seven times Vish Ein B'Shelahem. The Gam B'Rabbanon part. And that answers that. Well, no, because challah in there's no challah for akum. So there's the chodesh which does apply to the akum. It's the rabbanon, not midah Torah. The bracket says here, "Becoming eight shampir shchayim mishta the peiros chutzorich nichnus loretz the chayim challah midah raisa." He says that the reference to challah is to peiros chutzorich which came there, so which are chayim challah midah raisa. In Sham okay, it's not true that challah begilgul taya. Challah has to do with rolling the dough. Can gilgul hoya beretz Yisrael, since the rolling dough is not so, and it's chutzorich. It's not no longer is peiros chutzorich. Vika divrei Tosfos keduk, and the primary perspective is like Tosfos. The Rosh Mitzvah pshitli the gam midah raisa like is a chodesh shel akum. Rosh clearly holds in his tshuva that is a chodesh in by akum, but it's the raisa. The kolech ne'emayit shelahem yesh drosha. Any place where we exclude non-Jewish grain, there's a drush k'mo b'truma degoncha, the gonakum, your grain, not the grain of non-Jews, etc. Any place there's no exclusion, there's no distinction. Midirava k'naim be'orla. It's like k'naim be'orla where there's no distinction. Ayin sham. V'atim be'orla k'naim ain't but even though from the orla k'naim we can't extrapolate. Shechamurim b'chodesh they're more severe than chodesh. Kanvor b'kiddush ayin sham. Mekom kol nevertheless blow shum limud kenu without any derivation. That's the way it goes. The came in the Chutz La'aretz, since it applies to Chutz La'aretz. Mimela Mali Shel Yisrael, Mali Shelahem, Madim is apply. If Madim is making it belongs to a Jew and a non-Jew. Man played who will draw a distinction between them. Being Omer Shelahem, maybe you say we don't bring Omer from the harvest of a non-Jew. See if Kitz here Chem, it says your harvest. But Lashita Zu, Aim being Omer Klam Chutz La'aretz. According to this opinion, don't bring Omer at all from Chutz La'aretz. Come Chodesh Noy Midaraisa. Nevertheless, Chodesh applies to Midaraisa and Kain and Chiluk, because this opinion does not link the two. Nevertheless, he says, according to this opinion, Talia beplukta. It depends on machlokes. Yesh kinyan la'akum beretz Yisrael and kinyan, whether a non-Jew has a right of acquisition in Yisrael to negate halachas of tluyas baretz or not. Compared to the gittin. This is bad that feel man those chodesh chutzarts. Right, so even those who ask chodesh chutzarts, the right, so we come never pshita shlote chutzarts chomer eretz Yisrael. The chutzarts can't be more severe than eretz Yisrael. If he said according to this, the man the mar and kinyan, according to holds that a non-Jew can't. Non-Jew's purchase does not absolve Eretz Yisrael from mitzvah tluyas ba'aretz. Leislu karka be'Eretz Yisrael. They have no land in Eretz Yisrael. In Kingam chutzatz ein iser bekarka shalahem. According to whatever. According to my Ankian, they don't have land in Eretz Yisrael. They can't acquire land in Eretz Yisrael. So in Kingam chutzlaretz, okay. In chutzlatz also ein iser bekarka shalahem. There's no Chutzlatz also there's no Isser in their land. In Eretz Yisrael there's no Isser. They can't be mafkim mitzvahs because they have no land. They'll write in Kinyan. Chutzlatz have a Kinyan. The mitzvahs taka won't apply to them. Shlote Chutzlatz chamir Eretz Yisrael. They can't say Chutzlatz is more severe in Eretz Yisrael. Then they can't have an acquisition in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it's not the mitzvahs tluyas baretz are not mufka from their land. But Chutz La'aretz, they where they do have an acquisition, so there's a be chayiv in mitzvahs. On a kaima and kinyan. So we hold there's no kinyan. Kabur by Rambam Perkam Michumas. Of course, could be that that's only in terms of they're not being able to undermine the kedusha. And Shami Kamakam nevertheless can be so chodesh make kedusha so omer. Is chodesh also account for the kedusha of the omer? Or bisman omer is manazeh, or the time of the kedusha omer, or the korban omer, or the time of the omer, or the neish chini shab b'sham plukta yesh lam kinyan be'etzel lach bar shichin umaros. There's 7 machlokas if they have the right of acquisition so to actually dig holes in the land and possess land in terms of construction. That halacha is never was issued. Can also link that machlekes. Mainly raya dovers. I have no raya for this, no evidence. I'm as far as that he can't sniff the it's going to return to this and come to whether the fact that we pass in yesh kinyan and ain't kinyan as well is the reason why chodesh applies to akum in Eretz Yisrael and would not apply to akum in Chutz La'aretz. Tesai Koser Rabbeinu Ramah B'Ziv Gimel Ramah writes Kumakom Kostam Tzvua Shailach at Pesach any Tzvua by which we have no definitive knowledge that it is Chodesh is mutar after Pesach Mikoch Sveik Seika against Sveik Sveika Safik Mishon Shavra Safik maybe it's from last year so Mishon Zuri because it's in this year Kom nevertheless Dimon Nisha Shokan Moimer maybe it took root before the Makan Lishono. I've got the Chodesh Lishma. It's not, it doesn't really sound like Compass Wheels Fake Fake because real kind of suffix, right? It's from this year or last year, but okay. I've got the Chodesh Lishma material, even though the Chodesh Davash Lishma material. If with this fake work on anyway, so it becomes fake because it has something which will permit it later on, much custom Sima Kufyut. Yesh Lomar the Zerbatar Reves. I could say that, well, here it's in a mixture. Shakapan Yesh Kamvade Isser. I'm sorry, you can see that, but that which is not batel is only where it's a mixture. Shakabanim yeshkan vade iser, where there's definite iser, we just want it to be batel. Ava velobas fake sveka, not by fake sveka, begufa iser in the in iser itself. She ain't kan iser cloud where there's no iser at all. If you say fake sveka. Mil kasha, but it's difficult. It's fake svekos, as we just said. What kind of fake svekos is this? How kol shem echad? It's one name. Something can be tiro omer or lo tiro. It's a something the omer permitted or not. Mali mishana shavra mishana zu koyim loimer. When there's making last year from this year before the omer, it's all the same tzad before the omer. Sorry, Kibega's question. Lini read the Shapir have his fake svekos. Arukh HaShulchan says no, it is a fake svekos. Yesh nafkina mishtei svekos. There is a difference between the two svekos. Imu Mishon it's from last year. Emivinim as the Omer. You can't bring it from the korban Omer. Being racist Katzircha has to be your first harvest. Low slow Katzircha, not the end of your harvest. Come here, Resh Kol Korbanos, Lain Sham. Mishon Azuf, so this year, Mevin Menes Omer. You can bring it from the Omer. Kamina Resh. Sorry, Uklo b'seik seika, and the general principle b'seik seika. Because she yesh nafkamina, even there's a small nafkamina, menas feikos, based on paladina between the seikos in some aspect of halacha. Av she'enu noy b'zman hazeh, even though it's not applicable to this nafkamina in our day and age, because it's not bringing korbanos anyway. Chosh leis feik feika, it is considered feik seika, much custom in minute kufyud, but close feik feika. Okay, Yud Zayin. Oka Kosav, the Ramah also wrote, Ramine Tvuah Shezorin, in various types of grain which they plant, Vade Lachra Pesach, which you definitely plant after Pesach, B'miktas Medinos, such as some countries, Shezorin Shipula Shol, the story where they plant oats and barley Achar Pesach, Azef Shlachmir Achar HaKotzir, and be machmir after the harvest. Unless the doors of the country are locked, not literally, but rova to a boy malcolm acher, and most of the grain comes from somewhere else. She's only going to Pesach where they plant before Pesach. Also a place where the winter extends after Pesach. And that entire area they plant after Pesach. All these things I mentioned. Yesh lachmir, you got to be machmir. And by default, you have to assume that it's also. But don't pass this for other people. Where most people eat and drink beer from these species. That's that according to Ramah. Best they be striking and not amazing. I can't show them. All this is talking about Germany and Poland, which is next to Germany. In other words, the area of Poland adjacent to Germany. The Rosh Hashanah is running on Pesach. There, most years, they plant before Pesach. I'm the same thing as Russia, but in Russia, ain't got a cloud living near Pesach, ain't a dain zman zemira cloud. Zman zemira cloud. By us, there's no suffix, because it says, because by us, nobody plants before Pesach. If not, on an exceptional occasion, once every 20 years or so. We have no heter in Chodesh. In Musa Daraisa. And it's not possible to say Musa Shoikin if it's Nisa Daraisa, as many poskim have said. But on the other hand, it's almost impossible to be careful about this. Because the harvest is in which is August, and we have to wait 8 months till the next Pesach. It says on 3 lands you do you call leap year, because because it's the winter. We use one of them. Everybody rejoices. Perish Rashi. The Shabiker Behuda. Then when already it's the first crop is developed in Yehuda. Marbin Bishvil Hashtayim, and then you do it Libra for the other 2. It extends the Chodesh. It's very difficult for them. For 1 month. This is difficult for them. When they lived in Eretz Yisrael. Difficult is us to wait 8 months. For refrain from eating wheat and barley and oatmeal. I don't know what greifen is, but whatever baked dish they make. There's everything we eat, and every the beer we drink, the entire winter. Is only individuals can be careful about this. It's very difficult for them. Therefore, the Chacham Yisrael got up to find Terim, are they, which you will find in their books. Many people built on the heter that doesn't apply to non-Jewish grain. And that's difficult, as we just saw this evening, because the Rosh doesn't hold that way. Some people wanted to say that drinking beer is okay, because the derived beverages are not like the grain itself. That's a shach. It's difficult also. It's good time because the Raisa, but he's going to return to this concept later on. You test Hamdam, Atosh, Zochinul, or Zarua Tzadik. Now, coming back to the Or Zarua, now that we have merited having the Or Zarua, Liyishrei Leib Simcha. Now, for those straight heart, there's joy. Famous Eshum Safik, there's no doubt. Dolam B'Sonግ Rabbeinu Baruch V'ri Vav, Rabbeinu Avigdor Kohen, Rabbeinu Yitzhak Bar Azura, Rabbeinu Menachem Mil Tzedek, Umardachai HaGadol, Umar Real, the Chodesh Chutzotz the Rabbanon, like all those posts, Chodesh Chutzotz the Rabbanon, Moshe Bir Azarua, like the Azur explains, She Tasam B'Ura, they're clear cut. Perspective, we take one stam of the other stam Mishnah. Rabbi Lezer Rabbanan look Rabbanan, Lezer Rabbanan looks like Rabbanan. Frame Isser Chodesh Tali Ba'omer. According to their perspective, Isser Chodesh has to do with the Omer, meaning the carbon Omer. The Makom She'emer B'im Omer, place you can't be in the carbon Omer. Sham ain't a Chodesh. No way, there Isser Chodesh is not applicable. The Chenu Pashto the Sugya, the Reish Perakol Karbanos. That's the simple meaning of the Sugi there Menachos. If ain't Shal, can ask the Echab Shalom Market. I can say this. If it didn't take root before Omer, they're us until the next Omer. Vusham Yisham, then being Omer Mizeh, Mishun Bin Rishitskit Yircha, Veloskit Yircha. And the Yisham explains that we can't bring Omer from this, even though it's only Mutter the next year, because it only can bring from the initial Ktira. Not from the end of the Ktsira. The initial Ktsira of this year, not the end of the Ktsira from the previous year. Said Isser Chodesh doesn't have to do the Omer because you can't bring a Korban Omer from this crop, and yet nevertheless it's also until the Omer is brought. That's not difficult at all. That doesn't have to do with the specific planting of an individual. But definitely has to do with the place, the location. Then we welcome Shemisham Paslu Carbon Omer, place where you can't bring the Carbon Omer. Come over Chutzlaretz, like Chutzlaretz can be Sechodesh Embo. Yes, it's true that there are individual issues besides that, But the main issue is an issue of location. Um, uh, who came in the Rahman Atali, it's the Chodesh Bar Kravas because the Torah links the two. Vayikra Chav Gimli Dal. V'im the Rambam lo Sviril Kain. The Torah is even though the Rambam does not all the way. He holds a not contingent. Avani Rabbi says Sviril Kain, but these other rabbis do. Merif Arosh Ein Raya the Sviril Gam Kuzeka Rambam. There's no evidence, in fact, the written Rosh Chodesh like the Rambam. The Yishma the Dina ain't a poskin kamish l'kar karmel sibur. They don't all pull like the Mishnah and Menachos. So Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, the Omer Bama Chutzorts. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, the Omer Kleskam Chutzorts. Shem Einam Medarbe Medine Korbanos. Interesting, because the Rif and Rosh don't write about Dine Korbanos, and Alim was Stam the Orla, so they just stop by taking the Stam the Orla. Mitam Shigustam Ziv Dal, Ein Afkiyin Bezeh. Interesting. They didn't actually get into the issue of where the Korban comes from or not, because that's not their focus. Okay, Chaf. Came David the Rabbanan. Now this is where the denouement starts. Came David the Rabbanan, since the Rabbanan has a var pashuk mashkasa gedolim, it's simple, it's clear, like Dolim wrote, Shelo gazu amdinas harchokos meretz Yisrael. Rabbanan did not make a zera on the countries which are distant from Eretz Yisrael. The chol mitzvah tluis baritz, any mitzvah which is contingent Eretz Yisrael, kshegazu Rabbanan chutz laretz, when Rabbanan made a zera chutz laretz, lo gazu rak amdinas hakrovos Eretz Yisrael, they only made a zera on the countries which are close to Eretz Yisrael, kamo trumos u'maisros. And trumos u'maisros is the only made on countries close to Eretz Yisrael. Rak bechala gazru, on chala they made a zera chutz laretz everywhere. Mishum the chiyuv mishayis gigol yisrael, because the chiyuv comes when you roll the dough. And besides, the Chodesh is much more light than Chumas U'Maiz Chala. Tevel B'Misa. Tevel is B'Misa, and that's even a Chala. If you go to the decree, I have a Chodesh U'Balav. It's not a Chiv Misa B'nei Shemayim, it's only a Lav. Baraya Bru is a clear evidence of this. Is Mashom Kedushin, now it says Kiliak Kedushin Lav Taflam Tes. Kiliak Karen the Kilaim in the vineyard. It's also by Noah, which is also by Noah, because of Chutzarts. It's severe. They made a decree of Chutzarts. Kile is Roim, the Eretz Yisrael Mutter, Kile of seeds, which Eretz Yisrael is Mutter by Noah, is not Mutter by Noah. You'll have to benefit from it. Logos of Chutzarts, they make a decree of Chutzarts Einsham. Raymond Foolish, it's clear. The Kosher is Ulav, anytime this only a Lav, Mutter by Noah, and you'll have the right benefit. Logos of Chutzarts, they didn't make a decree of Chutzarts. Because we're going to ask, if that's the case, why make a decree in Chodesh on the closer countries? It's simple. Places which are close to each other, they bring the grain from one to another, but as they kilkul come, it's going to come to a kilkul. It's going to come to things going to go awry. Why should make this the decree on distant countries where the harvest is going to be a different time of the year altogether? Yosef is there. More than this, how could they possibly make a zera on our distant countries? Historically, we have to wait half a year from the time of the harvest. Something which the tzibur cannot sustain. We don't make zeros on the tzibur, something which they cannot sustain. Umitam zeh badlu it's a shemen. That's when they gave the prohibition of shemen shalakum. Certainly this will be true about grain. Shuchai nefesh mamish. L'chein kol b'yisrael nikim lo nichshalu be'isur chas v'sholom. All of Israel is clear and free of the prohibition. And there's going it's going to next sip is going to say not just karka shel Yisrael, but even shel karka shlakum. I want to add before, of course that's for tomorrow night, but I want to add here that according to Reb Moshe in the Tshuva Ein Misapkim Rakdim b'Shabbos, not clapping and dancing on Shabbos, he says that the concept of Gzeir Lo Niskabel B'Rov Yisrael is not limited to the generations immediately after the Gzeir was promulgated. If any time in history it stops being kept, so then the Gzeir falls off as well. So that's why he says the Gzeir on clapping and dancing fell off if Am Yisrael stopped being able to stop sustaining it. So here too, this would also apply. Once this became the minhag of rob minion opinion of Am Yisrael in Chutzlaretz not to keep Chadash because it's too difficult, a distance from Eretz Yisrael. So then, at least in these distant countries, Chadash would no longer apply because if it's the Rabbanan, because the Takon of the Rabbanan would fall off. So even if they had Megos at some point in distant countries, the Arukh HaShulchan rejects. Nevertheless, it will fall off if the mass observance was not to keep Chodesh on those circumstances.